I was the only witness to this. I was the crime scene, I was the subject, and eventually became the detective. I was told that I was abandoned, right, and that my foster parents had saved me and that they were going to be my mum and dad forever. They said they would never visit me and never did, and that was it, and I lost everybody.
The words you wrote down were more of a reality than your actual real environment.
Yeah.
Did that help you?
Yeah. Whenever I wrote poetry, I felt a sense of place. I felt like I was anchored for that moment. I refused not to see what happened. I refused not to look in the mouth of the beast and go, I see you, I named you, you did do that.
Lem, welcome to Unbelievable Britain. Thank you so much for being here.
It's an honour.
It's not an honour, you daft thing.
No, it is. I mean, Victoria, you're incredible. Your story's amazing, and also I've listened to a few of Unbelievable Britain, and I'm a fan, so it's good.
Well, thank you very much for being here. For a very long time, for years, you actually believed that you'd been abandoned as a baby by your mother. That wasn't true. When, as an adult, you discovered that, how did that affect you?
It's to know that you've been lied to about who your mother is and what happened to you is not pretty. Like, does a woman ever, is the word abandoned ever the right word to describe a woman giving her child for adoption? Firstly, after 9 months pregnancy, is giving a child away for adoption abandonment, right? There's a whole relationship that the woman has had with her child. There's a whole complex set of emotions that have happened over a long period of time. Then the greatest trauma to her physical and emotional life happens giving birth to a child that will immediately love it. Love her. Immediately she will feel a kind of love. Not all the time, but a lot of the time. A really powerful surge of connection. The most powerful surge of connection that she's ever experienced in her life. Mm-hmm. So for a woman to give a child away for adoption has to be the greatest thing that one human being can do for another. Because a child's guaranteed to give you love, more love than you've ever had. So to give that away so that it can have a better life has to be a great self-sacrifice. Like the most heroic thing that a person can do for another person, period. So for me, the word abandoned was never fitting for the transaction, the emotional transaction of giving your child away so that it can have a better life.
But that's what you had been led to believe. That's how it had been described to you?
Yeah, I was told that I was abandoned,
right, and
that my foster parents had saved me and that they were going to be my mum and dad forever. They taught me how to call them mum and dad. This isn't nuance. They said, we are your mother and father forever. Your birth mother has abandoned you, and we prayed to God, and you came to us, and so we're going. We're your mum and dad forever, and this is your sister. Well, I didn't have a sister and brother then. I was the firstborn. I have to say all of that about abandonment because there are a lot of women who have had their children adopted around the same time who were press-ganged into signing the adoption papers at their most vulnerable while they were away from their parents. And I knew about them, those women, before society became aware of them, before Steve Coogan's Philomena, because they were in the same home that my mother was put into. Anyway, I was never abandoned by my mother.
When you found that out, how did that make you feel?
When I found out that I wasn't abandoned by my birth mother, then I realised, I've got to find her. And everything's been a lie from that point onwards. So that was like my birth. I was told that I was abandoned from being a baby. So as an adult, it was clear to me that I had to spend my adult life proving that she hadn't abandoned me, and then finding out why anybody would say that she had. That's the thing.
Well, let's go back then and see if we can explore that, and you can tell us how you worked it all out. A social worker, Wigan Social Services, found you a foster family. He gave you the name Norman, and the family you lived with called you Norman, and they raised you to a particular age. What do you remember about growing up with them? This is the Greenwood family.
The Greenwood family were very religious. They were Baptists from the Baptist Church, which actually is a working person's religion. You know, the working class are the Baptists, the miners and the tradesmen and women. And the church was very important in their life. We prayed at breakfast, prayed before we went to bed, went to church on Sunday, went to prayer meetings in the middle of the week. Everybody else was sinners. We were sinners. One day I would get baptized, and the baptismal pool was in front of the pulpit, and it would open up, and people would wear white gowns and then step into the water and become saved after admitting that they were sinners to God and that they needed forgiveness. It was kind of a beautiful religion, really. And beautiful singing in the church every Sunday. Rock of Ages, you know, and harmonies by the community. And I was lost in the middle of that, not in a bad way, you know, I loved it. And I loved my church and my town and my school at the top of the road and the flower park across from where we lived. We always lived in the same place.
Whereabouts is this in the country?
Ashton in Makerfield.
Yeah.
The most talked about town in the country at the moment.
Correct. So you're a northerner.
Yeah.
Which we like.
Yeah.
So were you happy then as a boy?
Very, extremely happy, yeah.
Were you?
Yeah. Extremely happy. I'm so pleased that I can say that as an adult.
Yeah.
You know, and not look back at my past and see trauma and fear it and run away from it, you know.
When you were 12, Lem, your foster mum and dad returned you to care. Can you remember why, what the conversations were at that time?
So it was just after Christmas, and I'm going to try and put myself there so that I'm not just pulling out. You know, stories can solidify sometimes and they become rigid, and stories are not rigid. They're fluid as we grow. You know, we grow with our story. But it is what happened is my foster mother said, "You don't love us, do you?" That was the phrase. And then I was immediately like, yes, I do. So we can, you know, that's good. I can answer this question. As a 12-year-old inquisitive child, I can answer this question. I can properly tell you that I do love you. That's it. End of story. Or beginning of story, you know. And my foster mother said, don't tell us. Don't say anything. Go away and, well, not go away, but come back tomorrow and read the Bible and pray to God and give us your most honest and truthful answer as to whether you love us or not.
Even though you think you've just given the truthful answer.
I think I've just nailed it.
Yeah.
It wasn't even a question to me. So this was a theological thing that my foster mother had put to me. I had to go away and I had to pray to God, and I had to come back to her with an answer which was theologically on point. This is what we did in the Bible. We read the Bible, then we discussed about books in the Bible, discussed what a line meant, etc., etc. So I thought this was a sort of challenge for like growing older Lem, you know, Norman, as I was known then. And so I prayed to God and I read the Bible, and I don't know what bits I read, but it became obvious to me that my mum asked me whether I love them or not. Therefore, I mustn't love them. Okay? I mustn't love them because the person who I love from the bottom of my heart is telling me I don't, or that I should ask God. So the thing about God is you admit to your sins and then you get forgiven and then we can work. That's the whole Baptist faith. So I prayed to God and I realised that I mustn't love my mum, but that I could learn to love her. I'll ask God for forgiveness. God, this being that's everywhere, for forgiveness, and I'll learn to love her. This is Baptist brilliance. I was very pleased with myself.
Okay.
Victoria.
Yeah.
Very pleased with myself because I'd prayed, I'd got the answer, I understood why she was asking me that question, and I was able to present. So I went back the next day and I gave the answer that I'd just given to you. And she said, because you don't love us, you don't want to be with us. And that's really clear to us. And you've chosen to go.
Oh, God.
And the next day, so obviously this had all been pre-organised. My social worker is picking me up outside my house, across from the flower park, with the school 2 minutes away, and the church 5 minutes the other way. And I'm leaving them on the front door, and she wouldn't hug me, and I had to hug her. And they said they would never visit me, and never did, and that was it. And I lost everybody, brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, first girlfriend, town, village. And I left for these children's homes, and that was it. That was it. And then when I get to the children's homes, the town around the homes all think that we're the bad kids. This is where the naughty kids are.
Right. Can I just pause you?
Yeah, there? I wasn't going to go on further than that, but yeah.
No. Why? I don't understand why what you have just described happened at all.
That's the question I asked myself when I went into care, and the answer that I gave myself is that it must be me, something about me, that when you lose everything that you've ever known, this is what all parents mitigate against with their own children. That's why you have birthdays and Christmases and weekends, and that's why you say, oh, do you remember when you did blah, blah? And your child says, no, I didn't. You say, yes, you did. And in that argument is some form of relativity, when you're teaching manners, when you're asking a child to, when you're having just any conversation at the table, it's all about relativity. The table's about relativity. The argument is about relativity, falling out, argument, etc. They took that away from me, and I didn't know what they'd done because I thought it must be my fault on some level, even though I don't know because I'm 12. But it must be my fault, and the reason this has taken a lifetime to play out is because I was the only witness to this. I was the crime scene. I was the subject, and eventually became the detective. How do I prove that what happened really did happen? If the social services are not saying it, they've put me into children's homes. People think I'm bad. Even the staff think you're bad when you go into children's homes. I'm sorry, staff, because there's some great people who work in the social services out there. So I had to try to work out why. I know why, by the way.
You know why now?
I know fundamentally. I know exactly why it is.
What's the reason that they did that?
My foster mother's mother had twins. My foster mother, was a twin. Her other twin was in the asylum. My foster mother's mother was also a foster carer and also adopted a child and was at the same church, etc. My mother felt incredible guilt about being the surviving twin. Every birthday my mother had, every Christmas, every occasion, she would be reminded that her sister is in the asylum.
And just to explain for younger listeners and viewers what an asylum because we don't have them
Yeah,
anymore.
okay.
What was an asylum?
Asylum is where people would put, rather than say mental illness, I'll say women who were postnatal, postnatal depression, or twins who'd had oxygen taken away from them and so were disabled, perfectly capable of living probably more independent lives. They would be put into asylums and just left there, basically, pumped often with full of drugs. These were big Victorian institutions. Many of them had been changed into flats now, and apartments, because the property was always well kept. Funny, isn't it, how institutions of the Victorian era kept themselves very well. The grounds were very beautiful. Everything was in order. And so we used to visit my auntie, and I think my mum had a lot to prove. And she wanted to prove to her mother that she's a good human being. Good person.
Why did that mean you having to go back into children's homes age 12?
Because of what happened to my mum, she had suffered from very serious depression.
Right.
And I was coming to the age of 12. I was coming to adolescence. So I was starting to take biscuits from the tin without saying please and thank you. I was starting to have cigarettes with the older kids at school. And I was blamed for... I was an extrovert as a child, and I was blamed for my brother's introvertedness. He's just a natural introvert, he's a lovely, kid, and but I was blamed for it as if I was intimidating him into introvertedness. It's classic stuff that can happen with a family where one person gets blamed for another person's behaviour, whereas it's not true. That's the way that other person was, right? But with me, because my mother refused to sign the adoption papers, I was always technically a foster child,
right?
So they could get rid of me. And when my mother was at her illest, just after Christmas, they put me into care, and that was the thing they told me before they put me into care. Just after Christmas. Christmas is notoriously quite a stressful time for families. Look, what you have to say is it right? What does a child have to do to lose everybody and everything? Like, how bad does your child, Victoria, have to be for you to say to them, you're never going to meet any of us again. We're never going to visit you again.
There's, however bad they are, you'd never do that.
Yeah. But I wasn't bad either.
No, you don't.
No. But the answer, no. But you can see what I'm saying. The question for me was, how bad was I? What did I do? What did I do? The social worker isn't saying I did anything bad. You can see it in my files. The school, I made a documentary the other day. We went back to my school, and they said the head teacher said I was a ray of sunshine in my files. I can see it. It's written there. And I went back to the school, and one of the teachers said she would never have said that about anybody unless she meant it. She was incredibly strict, etc. So I had to basically go back for evidence.
Yeah. In terms of then being in multiple children's homes between the ages of 12 and 17, 18?
17, 18, yeah 17 and a half.
How does that... these are... every year as a child and a teenager is a formative year, but these are super formative years. How did that affect you?
Within 2 months of being in Woodfields, interesting, all these children's homes named after like flowery thing, Woodfields, Oaklands, Gregory Avenue, Wood End. I was glue sniffing under the bed, tattooed my hands. It's just madness. Nuts. I was from a sort of lower middle class family. I hadn't ever claimed a penny, father was a teacher, mother was a nurse. It all seemed very Trumpton, So it seemed to me that when I was in care that the system knew what to do when somebody did something wrong. It knew the punishment regimes, but it did not know how to hug a child. So I wasn't hugged, I wasn't touched. I went into children's homes, and over 5 years, I wasn't touched or hugged by an adult. That's like torture. Baptists are very tactile.
Right.
And they were Scottish, half Scottish as well. And I had an uncle called, granddad called Duncan Munro, and we were very tactile.
It was years later, that you gained access to your records.
Yeah.
2015.
Yeah.
What did you find?
Well, I found my entire story. Reports were written about me every 2 weeks for all my life. That's quite a unique thing, right? You know, somebody was writing about me every 2 weeks from 0 to 18 years of age. And it was like I was an experiment. Like they were watching me. Not like they were helping me. Like they were watching me.
Monitoring.
Yes, monitoring. He's got a chip on his shoulder because somebody's called him, you know, the N-word, etc. Judgmental monitoring, like lopsided monitoring with a bias against me, even when they didn't know they were doing it. And so I was very happy when I received my files in 2015 because it was evidence.
Yeah.
And it proved that I'm not mad, that everything I'm telling you is true.
It happened, and they wrote it down.
And here, let me tell you, Victoria, like I got done for breach of the peace, I think, when I was 17 or 18, for, messing around at a 21st birthday party, somebody else's 21st, in Howbridge Baths, whatever. And yeah, that was at 17 years of age. So that was when I was leaving care. Yeah, I don't know what I'm trying to say, except all of us who were in care, it seemed to me like society was waiting for us to prove it right. So it's like, you're the bad kids, and here's the Borstal, here's the detention centre, your children's home's here, there's the Borstal, there's the detention centre, there's the police, and this is the punitive rhythm that you're in. So this was our, family is about the power of suggestion, and this suggestion that we were not right.
Yeah, the default position was you're a bad person, and these are the institutions set up for you to progress through.
Know the names of them. Yeah. Know the names of them. That's Red Bank. That's Hindley Detention Centre. That's blah blah. Scum was on at the time, the television drama. And it was like it was laid out for us. And by the way, here's the police. They're watching you as you go home in a gang. And so it was like, and I was watching it, thinking this is a setup. So my foster parents are not calling me. So they're telling me it's my fault with no evidence, but it must be my fault. And then I'm in the children's homes, and the children's homes are so punitive. Like, we children who have been hurt, who are bound to show hurt behaviour, are then punished for that behaviour in the one place that should be protecting us.
You also found letters from your birth mother to social services as you were growing up, which showed what?
Showed that my mother wanted me all of the time. My mother wrote to the social worker, Norman, and she wrote to him, Norman Goldthorpe, his name is, and she wrote to him to ask for me back. She said, how can I get Lemn back? I want him to be with his own people in his own country. I don't want him to face discrimination. And Norman wrote back to her to say that Lemn was with good foster parents and he couldn't give her their address. And here's the thing. And there's things that even journalists have missed, like as I've used documentaries to prove the story. He called me Lemn to her.
Did he?
Right? So it's a natural thing, right? You read the letters, you think, oh yeah, there's a letter from the mother to the social worker in 1968, just a few months after I was born. And there's the social worker calling me Lemn to her, having already named me Norman to the foster parents. So there's your lie. There's your duplicitousness. There is the lie that has no justification. He knows what he's doing. So that's, if you seed a lie in a child very early on, it's probably going to come out at some point. And if it doesn't, there'll be one child in future whose eyes are so awake, they're like, I have to find out what the lie is. I don't know what it is. I don't know where it is, but there's something in this family that has grown so freaking big that I can't ignore it. That doesn't make that child better. It doesn't make them a better child than their brother and sister. But it means that they just awake to the things that happened generations ago. And my eyes lit up to my foster family.
In what sense?
There's something wrong here.
Yeah.
And by innocence, by loving you, it's going to show it. And I'm going to feel it, but I can't articulate what it is. My foster mother found it difficult to be loved.
Right.
And all I had was love for her.
So when you got all those files and you and it explained a lot, which it answered all these questions that you'd had. Did it also? I'm trying to put myself in your shoes. I can't, obviously, but did it also make you angry?
Oh, I was angry. I was angry when I was 17, 18. Very, very, very angry. I thought it was all to do with race, having my name changed, to Norman. Also, I was growing into a young man at 12 years of age, and I performed a play about my story in South Africa, and I had a woman came up to me in the Market Theatre in Johannesburg, a white woman, and she said, when the maids worked for us, which is one of the things that happened in South Africa, and they looked after the children, they would bring their children, and we would get on with their children. But when the boys turned 11, 12, they'd be sent back to the township. Right. And this was a regular thing that happened. And so, the awakening of the young man is quite possibly part of the reason.
What do you think of the emotion of anger?
Oh, I've been angry. What's that like? I've got a poem called Fair Quarrel. I'll rein in and then chain you in. I'll slit whip and rip into you till all the cold as nitric acid resentment pours onto your purple curdled back. I'll whip you till you howl and cry, rub salt in your eyes. I'll verify all your superficial fears. I'll wrench each finger from each joint till you get my point. That's not the full poem, but it is about just naked anger. And then you can tell me what a racist I am. And then you can tell me that I am a racist. And we can continue this discussion on a more equal basis. That was terribly done, but I've been angry for a long while. Anger for me had to do with suppression of how I feel and kind of confusion.
Is it have you found it to be destructive to you or not?
Oh, it's brilliant. It's like turbocharging the car, isn't it? At a certain time in your life, a bit of anger is very, well-placed anger is powerful and important. But if you cling on to the anger, it starts to turn in started to turn in on me, So I think that was how I would intellectualize depression.
Right.
Actually, anger turned in on the self.
Yeah. I want to ask you when poetry first became a thing in your life.
Yes, I was 12. That's when I remember writing a poem. I think I did it at junior school as well, but I was 12. And I've evidence for this from a documentary that I made called Child of the State, In Search of My Files, in 2015, I think, on Radio 4, in which I'm in a children's home and a cleaner shouts out, "Oh, I remember you. Writing poetry in corner, scrabbling up paper and throwing it away and starting again." Cleaners see everything. Somebody should do it. You know what? It would make a really good series, actually, what the cleaner saw.
Too right.
Because the institutions. You could do it, but the cleaners see these very structured institutions that house people. And they see which staff members make people feel nervous, which staff members feed on people emotionally as well. There's the staff member who gives you the cigarette isn't necessarily the best one. The staff member who says, "Oh no, come on, you can stay up with us and have a chat and blah," they're not necessarily the best one. So there's a lot of feeding on the emotional vulnerability of children that can happen in the care system.
But in terms of writing your poem,
sorry, I was just thinking. Well,
no, it's fine. It's absolutely fine.
I needed, when I went into care, I needed a sense of place because my entire world had sort of disappeared. And so I wrote poetry, and whenever I wrote poetry, I felt a sense of place. I felt like I was anchored for that moment, and that the imagination felt like a very real place to hang out. You know, I could write something on a piece of paper and it would become real to me, like, you know, more real than anything that was around me.
Right. So the words you wrote down were more of a reality than your actual real environment.
Yeah.
Did that help you?
Yeah, 100%. It made me feel like I've basically I found my thing, and I think it's what every parent wants their child to find is their thing, or every parent probably wants the child to find a thing in everything.
Yeah.
But I didn't have that luxury of finding a thing in everything. I'm getting very surreal now, but I found my thing. I found what I loved. I was like, I knew that something so powerful for me was what I was made to do.
Right. So you knew it.
I knew at 12.
You knew at 12.
Yeah, I wanted to be a poet.
That was your life. You were going to be a poet.
Yeah.
Wow.
I didn't know what a poet did. All I knew was a poet wrote, you know.
Gosh.
Yeah, I don't know whether that's a good thing, Victoria. I love when somebody's like a lawyer and then they write poetry, or they're a doctor and they write poetry, or they're a gutter cleaner or a bin, you know, and then they write poetry or novels. And I think, yeah, you have that life to be able to use, but not just use, but that is a part of your creativity. And I think that's really not just commendable. I think it's important in literature. The farmer and poet, you know.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
To the age of 12, there isn't an adult in your life who it sounds like has, although you said your childhood was happy and then it changed at 12, there isn't an adult in your life who's necessarily looking out for you.
Nobody has.
Right.
That's nobody.
But so when you realise you want to be a poet, is there any adult encouraging you when you're 13, 14, 15, 16?
I had an English teacher, as you do, Mr. Unsworth. I've got to say that through not having a family, everything is transitional. Everything is moving away from you all of the time. Right. And so I've had to go back through documentaries and find these people and look at them and say, you know, you're important to me, and do you know why you're important to me, you know? And I've then documented why that's important. Yeah. They've then seen those documentaries. And that memory is solidified for them. Does this make sense?
It completely makes sense, yeah. Completely. Yeah. It makes me really sad, not that it matters what I think, it makes me really sad that there weren't, apart from that English teacher, adults around you just being like adults are supposed to be with kids.
Yeah.
It's really...
Yeah. I was
shocking. Yeah. It's really shocking.
Yeah. It's happening... God, I'm lucky.
Wow, I was not expecting you to say that.
Oh my God, I'm
Why do you say
the
that?
luckiest man, because not a day goes by. Last week, just a couple of days ago, I was in Manchester giving awards to former prisoners and addicts, and many of them have been in care. Not a day goes by that I don't think. Actually, no, that's not true. Not a week goes by that I don't think that I'm the luckiest man on earth, because there's lots of us out there, but we're in prisons, we're begging on the streets, we're being sectioned. You know, there's loads of us who were in care and whose stress was compounded by our experience in care. We were further institutionalized, further blamed for things that happened to us years ago, that we self-harmed. There's lots of us out there, and look, I'm okay. Years of therapy, you know. It's probably set me back, actually. No,
I know you don't mean that.
No, I don't mean it. Yeah. I don't mean it. But I'm blessed.
Yeah.
I am blessed. But I refuse. This is what people get wrong. I refuse not to see what happened.
Yeah. Why should
I
you
refuse not to look in the mouth of the beast and go, I see you.
Yeah.
I see you. I named you. You did do that. Not only did you do that to me, but you're doing it to lots of other people as well, and you're getting away with it.
Tell me about your English teacher.
Mr. Unsworth, bald-headed, rugby-playing, bitter drinking. Not that he did that in classroom, Mr. Unsworth, I know you did. But bitter drinking, straight out of central casting for Kes. English teacher. That's a bit. You have to be a certain vintage, don't you? You have to get all of these references, but especially Kes.
I think people will have read Kes.
Union man, and a good human being.
So, what did he see in you?
Well, he read my poetry, and he saw how happy I was, how I felt seen by him doing that. I think, Mr. Unsworth, and he would talk to me about my poems after the class, and he would be critical, which is really good. He wasn't just like, "Oh my God, you're ace," blah blah blah. Yeah. It's what I wanted, and I've never thought about this. I just got whatever love I could from wherever I could, and it was mainly about making people laugh. If you go back to my village, I was there the other day because of Andy Byrne and Makerfield and all of that palaver. But people would just stop me and say, "You had the most beautiful smile." Aww. That's what happened. That's what people said. So when I went into the children's homes, I was constantly trying to impress people and tell them that I was okay, I was safe. My anger happened when I decided, why am I dancing for everybody? What if I just stop and look? I remember thinking that. What if I don't dance for you? Will you see me as a black threat? What if I stop? And that's when I got angry.
Right.
Because I realised that this race stuff, it's everywhere. People would speed up in their cars to hit me as I was crossing the road. People would spit outside of buses, the 582 bus, which a few people all know here. But, I mean, there was a lot of love in that working class, Atherton and Lee and stuff. And the people were good to me. It's really important for me to say, but also a lot of stuff happened. I once went back to Ashton in Makerfield to my foster parents' town, and the police were called. I knocked on my grandma's door, and she smashed the door in my face because she did not know who I was.
Right.
I started to realise, people don't see me anymore. Right. They see a black kid that they're making a judgment of.
I'm going to bring you back to poetry.
Oh.
If I may. No, because I want to ask you to read a poem that you have written for the World Cup.
It's called 8 Games. We have qualified, we've played our part. 48 teams, 12 groups, 8 games, start. No hatred, no division, no loss, no fears. With one aim, one game, difference disappears. We build, match after match, we rise. Time after time, we bring light to darkness and shine. Let it shine, said the sun to the moon and the head to the heart. We have more in common than sets us apart. The challenge, the flight, the rush, the charge. Make wings of your arms. This is who we are. I will not waver. I will not fall. I will not cower. When under great pressure the great overpower, we bring our past, our future, our rights and our song. We stand atop the stadium and sing, we belong here, we belong.
Thank you. So that is bringing in so many things for me. That's the very first time I've heard you recite that. But the main thing that comes out to me that it's about identity and a lack of division. And obviously there are a lot of divisive conversations going on in our country at the moment. What is driving you to write it like that?
This is an opportunity. The World Cup's an opportunity for us to kind of like be united and to look at our differences. And the one unifying factor is that we are together.
Yeah.
In all of our differences, and that's what I'm trying to encourage in the poem. And also I've used little bits of other poems I've written. I wrote the FA Cup poem for the final 2015. I wrote a poem for City called The Stadium Speaks for Black History Month a while ago. So I've nicked a couple of lines from those things as well. I wanted to do that. And also the belong line is from a poem which is up there in Manchester Museum up on the side of a wall. So yeah, so So it's a way of being able to think about what's happening here as we're all cheering the teams. What's actually happening? Look at the people next to you cheering for the same team.
How long would it take you to write a poem like that?
I did it in a week. Can I tell you about the Chinese emperor?
Of course you can.
Let me tell you about the Chinese emperor. The Chinese emperor commissioned a painting of his horse because he loved his horse. And he commissioned a brilliant painter, and a year and a half passes and it's not happened. And the emperor's angry. He takes a few men and he takes them to this artist's house. Centurion bangs on the door. Artist comes out and the emperor says, "You haven't painted my horse." The artist knows that this is possibly the end of his life. But it's not, and he knows that as well. And he gets an easel out. He says, "I'll do it for you now." And he paints the horse and he gives it to the emperor, and the emperor is just, it's a beautiful rendition, beautiful painting. And he did it really quickly. And he's about to go, and the emperor said, "I want to come into your house for tea." So he comes into his house, big house. And as he opens the door, he sees that every space on every wall is a painting of his horse.
Wow.
He had to paint and paint and paint the horse again and again and again and again to be able to walk out and say to him, "Oh, I'll just
do it
do
now."
it like that."
Wow.
So that's what it's like writing a poem. If you do it quickly, it's because you've got all of that work going on.
Absolutely, I understand that.
Was that a terrible story?
No, I loved it.
Okay, but it is.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
You eventually found and met your birth family.
I did, yeah.
What was that experience like?
It was good. It was complicated. It's complicated when you find the woman who's been traumatized and that you're the physical representation of that trauma. It's really easy to think that it's a simple transaction, but it's not. It was complicated. When I found my mum, I was a similar age as when she last saw my father.
Right.
And this is often the case when adopted people go back searching for their family. So in other words, I looked like him.
Right.
So she didn't see me, she saw him.
Gosh.
Yeah.
Which makes it even more complicated for her.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's when I realised it wasn't my story, it's her story.
Right.
It's her story of loss. It's her story of memory, suppressed memory. And here's me, turning up, wanting answers.
And so how has that relationship developed?
We can, if there's one place where you can be selfish, I think it's in your family. I think there are quite reasonable people who are dead selfish in their family. They're like, "Why has my mum not done this for me?" I mean, one of the privileges of having a family is you never have to forgive. You can have that gripe forever. Family is where you are utterly unreasonable, and you can get away with it for life. You can construct a whole story about your parents of not having done something for you that somehow you expected they should do. Because why? Like, you've got lots of examples of what a parent should be. So we find our birth mothers and our birth fathers and we're suddenly like, right, you're answerable to me now. And then we get angry when they don't deliver. I know lots of adopted people who found their parents and they're like, well, it's not worked out how it should have done. Without admitting that family is a whole beautiful kind of forest of dysfunction and function at the same time. So I find her, I want answers. It scares her. I look like him, I look like her. She's kept me a secret. She's had to. I mean, it's just like a bombshell landing in her front room. And it's not a case of like, oh, she's ashamed of me and she won't tell other people. This is what they say as well. Adopted people who find their birth parents, they're like, how dare they not tell their family? Why should they? This is like a double whammy, a double hatred for the woman who's had the baby, who's carried the loss. So my primary kind of, although it was very confusing not to be loved, I totally understand what the confusion could have been for her, I guess. So I'll give you an example. When I met her, she was working for the United Nations, stationed at the United Nations Development Programme in the Gambia. And when I met her, it was dusk. It was my first time in Africa. And Gambia then was so beautiful, small country. And she lived in Fajara, which is a beautiful part, where all the sort of embassies are and UN workers. And she came out and I was in a black Mercedes because there were people on the plane who were also from the UNDP, and they gave me a lift. They gave me a lift to her house. It was just me and the driver.
She knew you were coming, though, did she?
She knew I was coming, but didn't know what time.
Okay.
This is pre-internet.
Yeah.
You know, and also I was 21. I was like, I got a ticket. I sent my money in cash to Brixton because I read it in a newspaper that's a travel agent. And when they called them, they said, it's this much. I said, right, I sent a big cash. Like I had nobody. I had actually no adult. Yeah, and she hugged me by the gate, and then we walked to her house. And as we were walking up the pathway, she said, can we not talk about this? I've got a visitor. And there was somebody from the UN that was staying with her. So I walked into the house, sat in the front room with the visitor to my left, and then Yema on the chair there.
Your mum.
That was my mum. She's watching me, and I'm talking to this visitor about the weather in Manchester and how it rains a lot. You know, and in that moment, I think we just separated. And I couldn't get back.
Well, you couldn't if there was someone else there anyway.
I know,
Yeah.
but I couldn't get back through her, through however she was, whatever she was carrying. I wasn't equipped to navigate myself through the relationship with her, to be honest.
Right.
So I wanted her, but I couldn't find her.
You have spoken openly about forgiveness. I'm not necessarily linking that to your birth mother at all, but you tell me if that was a thing that you wanted to do or needed to do, or what forgiveness means to you.
Well, I don't think I needed to forgive her. I understand what was going on, but I did have to forgive my foster parents.
Right.
That was the important thing, because she was like my mum. Said that they were my mum and dad forever, so it was important to forgive them, and I did, and I had to forgive them face to face, eye to eye.
You told them that?
Yeah. I met my foster mum.
Right.
And
can I ask, Lemn, did she want your forgiveness?
No, I don't know. Sorry,
Right.
I don't know. That
Okay.
I don't know. But
What
when
did
I
you
did
say to her?
it, she brought her sister, she brought her son, and she had a whole posse. And then once I'd done it, this is by Buckingham Palace, because my uncle was a preacher and he had a church down there. When I did it, and we had the conversation privately, and then they said, right, we're going to church. And we crossed the road and we went to the church. And I found myself, this is probably about 2007, in a church, just like the Baptist church that I was brought up in kid, while they're singing hallelujah and blah, 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 which was a little bit surreal.
Right.
But it was also sort of enjoyable to watch as an outsider. I didn't feel any trauma, But every relationship I've had, I'd be at this point. This is what happened after I forgave, by the way. I'm just explaining what happened when I forgave. I'd be at this point, I'd be like, okay, we're now very close in this relationship. I think it's time I shared with you my dead bear. I know you've smelt it. And it'd be about a restaurant. And I'd go out the back of the restaurant and I'd pull out this massive dead bear. This is a metaphor, okay?
Yes.
A massive dead bear, and I'd put it over my shoulder and I'd say, now that we're deeply in this relationship, we're close now. You've got to know my dead bear, where the smell's coming from, etc. And there'd be maggots crawling out of its eyes and its tongue would loll up, and I'd be like, hello. In other words, yeah, the dead bear is what I would always get. I would always get to any relationship. I would get to the dead bear bit. And when I forgave my foster mum, it disappeared. And if there was any bad smell, it was my bad smell, and I had to deal with it. It was me. It was my responsibility. I couldn't blame it on anything else.
I'm going to be really sick here, Lemn, and say, what did the dead bear actually represent in real life?
The dead bear represented my story,
Right.
and like represented my dysfunction and anger because of my story. I would always blame, you know, be like, oh yeah, you know why I'm like this? Because of that.
Understood.
You know, I wish I wasn't, you know, and,
Yeah.
and the more I could articulate it, the worse it was because I couldn't do anything about it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
So once when you forgave your foster mum,
It disappeared.
Wow.
Yeah, I know.
okay,
I
well,
know.
that's the
It was-
power of forgiveness, is it?
It's utterly the power of forgiveness. I mean,
Yeah.
there is no. It's totally understandable why religion uses these human traits to sell itself, you know, because they're powerful. You know, it's when I realised, forgiveness isn't bound to any religion. It can be part of what it is to be a human being.
And so is that about releasing something from you that means
Oh my
that
God.
disappears?
If your trauma is the pivotal part of your life, sorry, let's talk about myself. If it's the pivotal part of my life, then all roads lead to trauma. People say, oh, you're a great survivor, Lem. Well, that means that I'm only myself if I can survive a catastrophe.
Right.
So what am I supposed to do? Spend my life looking for catastrophes? Making catastrophes happen in relationships? Funny, isn't it? The closer you get to me, the more I want to make a catastrophe happen, etc., etc. You know, the dead bear.
Yeah.
You know, so I've lost myself a little bit there, but
No, I'm following
but
it.
so I realised that when I forgave, I realised, the power is within me to forgive. When I went into care, I knew, I had this thought: I'm good. There's good in. I was born good. Like I was born good, and all of this stuff that's happening to me, I just need to get back to that.
Yeah.
So the power to forgive is the power to know yourself almost and say, no, I'm forgiving. I'm forgiving, you know, and I have to be. And she said, oh, you were a naughty boy. And the thing is what happened is when they put me into care, I remember realising this. All of this stuff I've realised as the years have gone on. While I was a young person though, oh my God, they're writing the story about me and they can't have me contradict it.
Yeah.
So the reason that they wouldn't visit me in the children's home is because I would contradict the story that I knew they were telling everybody in my family, because nobody was in touch with me. My uncles, my aunts, my cousins, my granddad, the church, everybody that I loved, none of them were in touch with me. And that's how I realised, oh my God, they're writing about me. They're going to say that I'm something that I'm not, and they can't have me contradicting it. And I'm in a children's home, and I'm going to become the thing that they've said
You are already.
that I am already.
Yeah. I mean,
You get this, don't you?
I totally get it. I still, not that it doesn't matter what I think. All those adults in that family, in that foster family, the aunties, the grandma, even if the foster parents were saying those things, they knew you. Somebody could have visited you.
Okay, Victoria. So now we get down to family. Never mind foster family, blah,
Yeah,
blah.
sure.
We get down to family
Yeah.
and how family works.
We're not all sheep in a family.
No, you may not be, but you may at times in a family say, we can't deal with that. We've got enough on our own plate at the moment. Something's going on, but we can't get involved with that because if I, as her sister, get involved with that, her mum's going to hate her for that,
Right.
blah, 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 blah. Okay, so let's not pretend that families don't compromise with what the true story might be and think, let's not pick it. And this is why, honestly, kids in care take the hit for a lot of familial dysfunction.
When you look back at yourself as a little boy, what would you want to say to him?
Now,
Yeah.
I'd like to say, I'm the guy that you would like to meet. You know what I mean? I'm the guy that you would like to be. And so it's going to be okay. and that I would say to me, I have done the best with what we've got. Me and you, we've got this much, and I've done the best with what we've got. There's another me who is married and got kids and knows that action of keeping something together is as good as anything the other me, this is the me, has done.
Right.
So I know like a guy who's got 2 kids, who's brought me children's homes. His story's horrific. They're now, the kids are now grown and universitied and whatever you. He's got his own business and what have you. He's done anything. He's just he's as successful, if not more successful, as I've ever been. You know, maybe more so.
But forgive me if I've misunderstood this. Are you saying that perhaps you aren't married with children because of your life, the life you had as a child?
There's no doubt about it, right. I think. Okay. I mean, I've made a decision not to be married quite early on, and I had this idea that, because I'd have no family on my side of the church, and that really spooked me for years. And then I found all my family, but they're not really in touch. So it's just the way things have panned out for me, which I'm not unhappy about.
Sure.
You know, we have our lot. You know,
and absolutely.
Been quite selfish, really. I've had like everything's for me, you know, in my life, and
I bet it's not.
Well, I'm learning to do things which can make a difference. But I look at my friends who've given over to their children, you know, in terms of career and what have you, and I see the sacrifice they get, and they get a lot back, you know, later on, especially. But just to be able to care and love another human being over a lifetime.
But tell me about the projects that are important to you, where you have cared for other people.
So I do thing called the Christmas dinners. The Goal from the Stone Foundation basically is a foundation which I have, which does Christmas dinners for care leavers on Christmas Day, and all of the care leavers get picked up in taxis, individual taxis. They're between 18 and 25 years of age. They're living in independent accommodation, etc. And Christmas Day can be the worst day of the year, a reminder of everything that you've never had, and it was for me. So I set up the Christmas dinners in 2013, and now they're all over the country. And we've got an incredible board. I've just gotten a board full of incredible people, lawyers and doctors and head teachers, and just people who can really make this thing escalate. So they're all over the country. And I went into care at Christmas, just after Christmas. It's a time of high stress for people. So rather than being on their own, they come to a venue, they get looked after as guests, they get great presents, a hamper to take home, so they've got food over Christmas, and they get a proper present, and they get looked after, and they can watch films and eat food, and it's not institutionalised. It's a bit like the studio, actually.
Right.
The idea of the studio is that actually it takes away the institutionalised nature of a place.
Yeah.
You know, and that's it. It's about the detail.
Yeah.
The lighting, the
environment.
All of it.
Lemn, what is the significant item that you've brought in today?
Victoria Derbyshire. Today, I'm going to be...
Big build-up.
I'm a laptop today. That's what I've brought.
Let's have a look.
With me. That's my significant thing.
Okay, so shall I describe it or you?
No, you can describe it.
So it's a map of the world, and there are white dots.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Each dot represents one story, one testimony from one individual. I've asked them one question. There's no data collection. I can't reply to anybody. There's no sponsors, etc. But I asked one question. I asked them to tell me something about family.
Right.
And
these are complete strangers.
Complete strangers.
Yeah.
Okay. This site's only ever been live for 40 days. The last time was the month of May, because that was my birthday. And it opens for people to put their submissions forward as to to tell me something about family. And through not having a family, I've wanted to know, is there some sort of uniform family? And there's 1,800 entries from all over the world. There's no press. This is the first time it's been mentioned in the press in any way. It just goes out onto... I tell people about it on my socials.
Yeah.
But it's just the most beautiful thing I've done ever. Every one of those lights represents somebody telling me something about family, and the stories are incredible, incredible.
Can you give us an example?
A woman from Holmfirth,
Yorkshire.
Titled hers Owl Chasers. And she said, do you know, on every other night, me and my kids, we chase the sunset. We get in the car. Now, if you know, Holmfirth is very hilly.
Yeah.
We get in the car and we chase the sunset.
Oh.
And she said, and then we go downhill again and we chase it up again. And she said, and one night we saw one owl, because the owls think it's nighttime. And she said, and then we saw 2 owls. On one night we saw 3 owls. We get back in the car and we come home and we go to bed.
And that's their family routine. I love it. I love it.
You know, and
what's
then,
this called?
It's called Tell Me Something.
Oh,
that's it. It's
yeah.
the website is tellmesomething.family, and it'll be open from June the 21st until July the 17th. So it'll be open for submissions then.
Yeah.
But you know, there are families the stories about blended families, families with adopted kids, families where there's anger towards a father. Families where there is lost love, families where siblings have been separated, and just all kinds of beautiful stories. And I get real comfort from reading them, knowing that complexity is part of what a family is. The fallings outs and the fallings in, but it's a kind of a love that gets stretched thin sometimes, but that is the thread that holds them together.
Well, thank you for showing me that. I want to ask you a question that we ask all our guests on Unbelievable Britain. What is the most unbelievable lesson that life has taught you?
Can I say 2?
Of course you can.
One is, life is not worth living if there's no one that you would die for. And the second is, I am not defined by my scars, but by the incredible ability to heal.
Oh, gosh, both really powerful. Can I just ask you about the first one? That is about love. If you're not prepared to die for someone, is that what that's about?
Possibly.
Yeah.
But, I did think the other day, I would die for myself.
Don't.
And I was like, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense. But
life
is not worth living if there's no one that you would die for. But I would die for myself. So, yeah. But that doesn't have to be. That could be, yes. So, yeah.
And tell me the second one again.
Oh, I am not defined by my scars, but by the incredible ability to heal. You know, healing can hurt just as much, right? You know, and you look at the scar, but it's healing. It can hurt still, but it's healing.
Lem, thank you very much for talking to us. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much for being so open.
Thank you, Victoria Derbyshire.
And if you were gripped by that conversation, please do like and subscribe for more extraordinary stories told by the people who live them. See you next time.